throughout the meeting. And then I'm going to ask those, if you have questions at the end, you can either put them in the chat bar or you can raise your hand or to come off and talk, either one. So this program is the occupational therapy doctorate here at Elizabethtown is one that is a design your own doctorate, and students take different courses in order to get to this point. And Laura has done an emphasis on both higher education and autism and trauma. So we're super excited to hear what she has to say, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Laura. All yours.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, let me get my screen ready here. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Like she said, my name is Laura Cunningham. I'm super excited to share this with you. So this is my doctorate capstone presentation entitled Enhancing Support, Inclusion, and Access for Neurodiverse Higher Education Students. Before we get started, I do want to go over some terminology that I do think is really important. First and foremost, what is neurodiversity? So for today, we're going to define neurodiversity as the students that have autism, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, as well as learning disabilities. There are other diagnoses that do associate or identify as neurodiverse, such as Tourette syndrome or OCD, but for today, we're just going to stick with these three diagnoses. And the other piece to this I want to talk about is I'm going to be using what they call person second terminology. So I know when I was in school, I was taught to use person first terminology, which is saying, a person that has autism or a person with a learning disability. But research is showing that a lot of neurodiversity individuals, as well as especially autistic population, prefers person second. So being called an autistic student or a neurodiverse student. So I'm going to use that language today. And then finally, I would encourage you to just think about the big shift that's occurring right now, what they're calling the neurodiverse movement. So the neurodiverse movement is shifting away from what they call the medical model of practice. So looking at something as a disability, autism is a disability or ADHD is a deficit. And that's what is considered a medical model of practice, as in like something's wrong, fix it. I break a bone, I fix it. And so really encouraging people to shift into what they're calling the socio-ecological model, which is the idea that there's simply a difference in the brain. There's not anything quote unquote wrong with people that are neurodiverse. It's just a difference in the brain. So now that that's out of the way, let's get started. All right, so first what I did is I did my literature review to try to make sure I had a good understanding of neurodiversity as well as neurodiversity in higher education. So one of the things that I know for sure is the landscape of higher education is definitely changing. Currently right now, there's 23% of students in higher education that are considered neurodiverse, and they're expecting that number to double, and some stats talked even about tripling in the next 10 to 15 years. So that could mean at least half of the student population would be neurodiverse in college. So that is a significant projection, and it really goes to show how important this topic is. However, despite these increasing numbers, neurodiverse students face a lot of different barriers in terms of higher education. So I have some of them listed here. Their access to accommodations, social and sensory challenges, as well as executive functioning challenges, and overall stigma and being reluctant to self-disclose. So one of the big changes between high school going into college is that the student is now responsible for getting their own accommodations. So the higher education student must self-disclose their disability. They have to provide doctor's notes. They have to state what they think they need in terms of accommodations. And so there's a lot of resistance to students, especially freshman year of college, excuse me. Whereas in high school, they had, maybe an IEP plan or a 504 that their parents or caregivers were doing for them. And so that takes me over here to there is a disconnect then between student support services and classroom experiences of neurodiverse students, as well as faculty are not trained in neurodiverse affirming strategies or in use of reasonable accommodations. So what's happening then is the neurodiverse population is one of the lower retention and graduation rates out of all of higher education. And they have the highest need for remediation across all the population groups, especially those students with ADHD. So this slide here is going over my overall capstone project objective. So the primary objective of my project is to improve faculty awareness of neurodiversity and equip faculty with practical strategies to support neurodiverse students. And by addressing some of the barriers I talked about today, such as access to accommodations, social challenges, I'm really looking to create a more inclusive environment here at college and help our neurodiverse students have better retention and graduation rates. So my research questions were the following. First, is there a need for faculty training at Elizabethtown College to increase support for neurodiverse students? And then, can a structured training program effectively increase faculty awareness and knowledge about neurodiverse student experiences and their ability to implement supported strategies for academic success? So this slide here is an overview of all the steps that I took after the lit review. So first I did a needs assessment, then I did student surveys, I did faculty trainings, and then after all the trainings, I did post-training faculty feedback surveys. So I'm going to break each one of those down. First, I did the needs assessment. So over the summer, I met with 11 different faculty and staff here at Elizabethtown College over 16 different sessions to try to figure out, is there a need for faculty training here at the college? 100% of the 11 interviewed faculty and staff perceived value in training on neurodiverse student needs and practical strategies, which answers my first question, yes, there is a need for this training. However, during the needs assessment, I quickly learned that a lot of faculty were worried that other faculty might have resistance to the training and feeling like, why do they need to know this additional knowledge about neurodiverse student experiences? So almost every single faculty I met with made the recommendation to include student perspectives and student lived experiences in the trainings, which takes me here. Okay, this is exactly what we did. So I created student surveys, and they are here. So the student surveys were really looking at the lived experience of neurodiverse students at eTown and using the results then to help guide the content of my faculty training. So I had two separate surveys. One went out to the traditional side of the college, which is more the residential side, the undergraduate side of the college, and then also to the School of Graduate and Professional Studies, or what we call SGPS here at eTown, as well. And so I did separate out the surveys because then I used their data separately depending on if I was training the traditional side of the college or the SGPS side of the college. And if you have been on campus, these flyers here are literally hung everywhere, obnoxiously actually hung everywhere at the college to try to get student recruitment. And then Lynn Davies in Disability Service and Nicole Gonzalez also helped me out greatly. They posted emails, they put it up on Elizabethtown College's Jay's app, and just try to help me get the word out there. So the student survey results are again separated by traditional versus SGPS. So I had 53 total students on the traditional side, 11 autistic, 29 with ADHD, 4 dyslexic, 1 dyscalculia, and 21 were considered other, and other would be a combination of those. So 56.6% of the students reported feeling fully included on campus, while 51% actively used accommodations. However, the data highlighted key areas of need, which are shown here on the right, and they include more accessible learning materials, sensory-friendly classrooms, better support for group environments and activities, and increased faculty awareness of neurodiversity. So I have a quote here I want to read directly. This is from one of the students on the survey, and they wrote, "I wish faculty had more education on the topic of neurodiversity. I feel most professors don't understand the challenge of having a learning disability and what that looks like outside of the classroom for a student. For me, I need to spend double the amount of time reading, studying, and doing assignments, and some professors aren't aware of this and tend to push all students at the same pace through assignments like time quizzes and homework." Another student said, "I would like to see more awareness being brought to those who are not neurodiverse, such as students and faculty who may or may not understand neurodiversity. The most valuable resource would be for professors to either be more aware of our hypersensitivity, such as mine towards sound, or for them to understand and allow us to take breaks as needed. For example, please close the doors during class, and please use more user-friendly materials during class, such as closed captioning or turning down the lights. It is so much harder for me to focus and learn when all the sensory stuff is happening at the same time. Honestly, it is simply not fair." Next, we'll go over the SGPS student survey results. So I had 13 response, 3 autistic students, 10 with ADHD, and 2 dyslexic. Overall, 23% actively are using their accommodations, and less than 54% felt fully included in their learning environments. And you can see here the overall identified needs are on the right, and they identified needs such as improved accessibility in asynchronous formats, which is online learning, more structured environments online, and regular feedback opportunities. And then I have here another quote for the SGPS student survey. Some professors would offer a predicted amount of time for assignments. For example, read this article and answer A, B, and C questions, and it should take you 60 minutes. I inevitably would go over the predicted amount of time, usually taking about twice as long as the professor seemed to think an assignment should take. So I would try to budget my time and would end up feeling very defeated. And another student wrote, in most educational and professional environments, neurodiversity carries a negative stigma. As a result, disclosure and open identification as neurodiverse are extremely sensitive and too often avoided by those who could benefit from reasonable accommodations. I would love to see neurodiverse alternatives more frequently and publicly advertised or presented, and individuals may not be willing to openly seek out disclosure and identification, but they might be willing to passively identify and review accommodation options. The next slide here is about faculty participation recruitment. So faculty were recruited through emails. So I initially emailed all the deans. So we have 5 schools within Elizabethtown College and a dean to each school. And I emailed all of them asking if they would be interested in having a faculty training for their schools, as well as some other different departments on the college. Which one of them was the High Library. And once the deans showed interest, then I sent out pre-surveys for the faculty to fill out, as well as the deans also preferred, instead of sending out the pre-surveys to all their faculty, they felt like their faculty already had too much to do and they didn't need any more on their plates. And so the deans filled them out for them. This information from the surveys, the pre-surveys, are what I use to help gear my content towards their specific training. In order to be faculty or faculty participants, they had to be full-time faculty with at least 1 year experience. So this is the training framework I used to develop content for each of the 4 trainings that I did. So first and foremost, everything I used was research and evidence-based. I tried to bracket my bias as much as possible because I am a higher education student at eTown and I am full-time faculty at eTown. I use the results of the pre-survey or the dean's request for content. I use my OT lens very frequently. I use the results of the needs assessment, student survey results. And then one of the things I really tried to do was go into our college's mission statement, our vision statement, our commitment to diversity, and make sure everything I was going over aligned with those. And I also went through the faculty handbook page by page to make sure anything I was going over was also within our roles and responsibilities here at the college. And overall, my goal was also to provide reasonable and realistic strategies that the faculty could use. Some of those faculty strategies I used include sensory-friendly, inclusive, and accessible environments, inclusive and accessible materials, group work, group environments, inclusive grading, accessible Word, PowerPoint, and Canvas, reflexivity, and then everything I did was asynchronous then versus synchronous learning to make sure I was exploring all aspects. And fun fact, this entire PowerPoint is considered accessible. Okay, so I did a total of 4 trainings. I did 3 in-person trainings on the traditional side of the college, 1 live Zoom training to the SGPS side of the college. And then once they were all done, I took the content from all 4 of them, put them together, created one giant combined PowerPoint, and I recorded that and I'm sending that out. I'm being told that that's going to be uploaded to the new faculty training when they go through orientation as well, which is really exciting. And like I said, each training content was unique to the intended audience. Not one training was the same, but they all were under the umbrella of increasing their faculty awareness of neurodiversity and providing successful strategies. After each one of the trainings, the faculty were asked to do the post-training faculty feedback survey I created. And you can see here there's different response rates. So the response rates are the amount of faculty that completed the feedback that also attended the training. So this slide here is the results of the faculty survey. So these are really how I use my outcome measurements. So the post-training evaluations offered significant insights into the effectiveness of the sessions I provided. Faculty members rated their awareness of neurodiverse students afterwards. That is a 4.27 out of a 5 average. Their knowledge of the unique challenges and strengths of neurodiverse students at a 4.39. Their ability to foster inclusive classroom engagement at 4.6. And then beyond this quantitative data, I also use qualitative open-ended questions. And the qualitative feedback highlighted that overall, everybody felt satisfied with the training. It was a 97% satisfaction rating. They expressed a newfound empathy and understanding for neurodiverse students, with one faculty member stating, "This training made me rethink how I designed my assignments to be more inclusive without sacrificing rigor." The sessions also resulted in 92% of participants were able to identify strategies for creating sensory-friendly classrooms. 88% felt that they learned techniques for developing universally accessible course materials, such as providing resources in multiple formats. And 85% felt they gained practical approaches for managing group dynamics. So despite these successes, some challenges did remain. One of them was a decreased confidence in identifying neurodiverse students within their classroom. That mean was one of the lowest ones, and that was a 3.61. There was an implementation gap, so there was a difference between understanding inclusive practices and how to actually implement those strategies. So the faculty felt like they knew about neurodiverse students now, they knew about their challenges and barriers and their strengths as well, and what to do about it, but they felt like they needed help actually implementing those strategies. And then overall, it was a lower faculty participation rate. So overall, across the entire faculty, full-time faculty here at the college, 36.7% participated in the trainings. And then there's some limitations here as well. So the research design would be one. I did this entire project in 5 months. Another one would be that the participants were all volunteered or self-selected, and they were all done at a single institution, which would be at E-Town. Some participation challenges would be that, again, I am a faculty member here as well and a student, which would provide a potential bias. There was variable response rates in terms of who did the faculty survey versus who attended. And there was some technical difficulties with one of the surveys at one point, so I had to quick change the format of it during one of the trainings. But overall, the results underscore the importance of faculty training in enhancing neurodiverse student support while identifying gaps in implementation. So the recommendation is to continue doing sustained professional development and workshops, which takes me to future considerations. So looking ahead, I plan to expand this program by developing longer training sessions that offer faculty consultative services, incorporating neurodiversity topics into professional development. So you can see here under EC implementation, which is Elizabethtown College implementation plans. In the spring of 2025, I had submitted a proposal last month, and I was accepted to present at this conference on professional development in terms of neurodiversity. And I'm going to be talking about inclusive materials and how to implement those. I also submitted a proposal to become a fellow here at the college in the Learning and Design Studio. So hopefully I get that, fingers crossed. And that role would serve as continuation of this, getting further training in terms of different methods to get professional development out, as well as serving as the faculty consult across the college for working with neurodiverse students. And then as long as my IRB comes through soon, I plan to do follow-up interviews for some of the faculty that did attend the trainings to see what strategies they tried this semester, were they effective or not, and just try to get some more outcome measurement from the trainings. Okay, so again, my overall goal was to build a more inclusive campus for neurodiverse students, help with better retention, graduation rates. And my faculty training initiative has laid a strong foundation for enhancing support for neurodiverse students at E-Town by increasing awareness, knowledge, and skills among faculty. We're moving towards more inclusive and accessible learning environments. And as I continue to refine and expand this program, my goal is not just to improve classes, but to foster a campus-wide culture of inclusivity, which would also align with our college's mission and values. So I have some acknowledgements here. First and foremost, I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody that has helped me with this, my family, my friends, my colleagues especially, but also to my husband. I just wanted to say thank you so much for being my rock through all of this, for being there, for making everything go smoothly, for encouraging me when I didn't think I could keep going. Your belief in me literally gave me the strength to keep doing this, so thank you. To my children, I see you guys on here. Hi, Lily and Jax. Thank you for your patience with mommy as I've been going through this and the countless hours mommy spent in the basement at her desk. So you guys inspire me every single day to be the best version of myself. And this project is just as much for you as it is for me. To my parents and in-laws, I think you guys are on here too. Thank you so much for stepping in to help with babysitting and giving me the gift of time to focus on all of this. Your generosity and your willingness to support my family has been a tremendous blessing. Knowing that my kids were with you gave me such peace of mind and allowed me to completely focus on what I had to do. And finally, to Dr. Tam Humbert, I am profoundly and utterly grateful for your mentorship with not only this capstone, but all the guidance you provided me in the last 20 whatever years it's been. Your expertise, your encouragement, your feedback has just been absolutely instrumental in shaping my work here and who I am. You just constantly challenge me to think critically and refine myself and push myself. And just thank you so much. Okay. And then in conclusion, supporting neurodiverse students isn't just a legal or an ethical obligation. It's an opportunity to enrich our classrooms and empower our learners. And all faculty can play a key role in fostering this inclusion. So thank you so much for your attention and for allowing me to share my capstone. And I now like to open up the floor for any questions or comments.
I'll start by thanking you for your amazing presentation. You did a
Thanks.
phenomenal job. And I too saw your little guys sitting over there. So hi Lily, hi Jackson. We hear lots of things about you. And yes, hubbies and families and colleagues and peers. Getting to a doctorate in less than a year is no easy feat for anybody. And so congratulations to just even making it, but being able to do it in such an executed way is phenomenal. So congratulations to you. Are there folks who have questions that they'd like to ask? And if you can put them in the chat box, I'll certainly be able, I'll repeat them for you. Or you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask if you like.
I'll ask a question. That was awesome, Laura. Thank you.
Okay.
So in your kind of search in the literature, have you found that any other institutions are doing any kind of trainings as far as neurodiversity goes in higher ed?
Not specifically, not to the level that I did. There are some faculty or some colleges across the nation that are encouraging it, where I saw some people were giving continuing education just in this area, like money to go out and do it. But I didn't find anything that was very like specific neurodiverse affirming trainings just on the college campus.
I'm going to ask you one, Laura. So what did you find to be the most surprising thing that you discovered?
How much I loved teaching the faculty here.
Mm.
Because I'm sure you remember how scared I was to do that with colleagues and peers and all of that. But I actually really loved it and I'm excited to keep going with it for sure. I never thought I would be applying to a fellowship program to do this, so that surprised me.
Excellent. If someone says, can you share a few examples on how to make a PowerPoint more accessible to neurodiverse people?
So it has a lot to do with the font, the color, especially if someone is dyslexic. So they're going to want to have off-white PowerPoints. So most of the PowerPoints, when you open them up, they're white. That we don't want that. So trying to make it just slightly off-white with the dark contrasting background, making sure there's closed captioning. There's all kinds of different things you can do. There's something where any of the pictures you put on there, you can add something called alternative text to it. And so it has a picture of, your pictures there, and then it also has a description of it for someone that needs a little bit more time to process what they're seeing. There's certain fonts you use versus not. There's a whole list of them. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Tam,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. So Laura, beautiful job. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Your focus has been on with faculty, but I want you to just respond to the question of, have you thought about people beyond faculty? Like, where do you see the possibility of going to different groups that interact with students who are not faculty?
Yes. So one of the things when I met with Bruce Lynch actually during the needs assessment is he felt that he said, once you're done with the faculty, let's switch gears and go to the students. So teaching students about other students with neurodiversity, or how to do group work with someone that say has autism or has dyslexia, some things like that. So I would like to explore that. Another one I want to do is helping the students transition from high school into college. There's a significant amount of research about the struggle that is there switching from an IEP to having to do it all on their own. So maybe doing some type of thing to help them learn to go through that process, something along those lines. And depending on how the fellowship program goes, I would like to just keep going, maybe do consultation for other colleges, something along those lines.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more, if there is one. Well, then hearing none, we'll say congratulations and on your completion of your presentation. And we're going to take a few minutes, just a couple minutes to transition to the next speaker. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to go, whatever works best for you in your own time. We know that people are coming for certain topics and not for others. And I certainly wouldn't expect those little guys to sit on for more. So you're certainly welcome to go. No one will notice. And we appreciate all of your time and we welcome you to the Elizabethtown presentations. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.